Greetings, dear friends. Today I'm making stuffed cabbage rolls. I know that all of you already make your own delicious stuffed cabbage rolls, but perhaps after watching my recipe, you'll discover something new. So friends, let's make the most delicious stuffed cabbage rolls. All the necessary ingredients are on my table. Ground meat. My ground meat is still frozen for now. I'll wait until it thaws. Here I have 450 grams of beef and 300 grams of chicken meat. Yesterday I already made stuffed cabbage rolls, and I have a few cabbage leaves left, not very large ones, but today I'll use them up. Also, for this amount of ground meat, 750 grams, I will need about 120 to 130 grams of rice. You can use any kind of rice. I have long grain rice. For spices, I'll use coriander, black pepper, salt of course, a little bit of tomato paste, 2 onions with a total weight of about 300 to 350 grams, and a couple of garlic cloves. So, I sliced the onions into half rings, but honestly, it doesn't matter how you cut them, and I'm putting them into a pan that's already on the heat. I'll be frying the onions in beef fat. Animal fat is much healthier. And I'm adding the onions to the pan. Try frying your sauté in animal fat, whether it's chicken fat or beef fat, it doesn't matter, it'll taste much better. I'm not going to fry the onions until they're a deep golden brown. I just need to cook them until they become more or less translucent. I add a little salt and a teaspoon of sugar. The heat is set above medium. You just need to stir constantly so the onions heat evenly. To speed up the process, I can just lower the heat a bit and cover the onions with a lid for a couple of minutes. This way the onions will soften faster. After a few minutes I uncover the onions. They've steamed a bit and become softer. And now you can grate a couple of cloves of garlic. The onions are almost translucent now. You can add even more garlic if you like. I don't add anything else to the onions, no pepper or any other spices. I'll be adding all of that directly to the ground meat. So the onions are almost translucent. I'll give them a little more time to get even softer. That's it. As soon as the onions start to get a slight bit of color, just a hint, I turn off the heat. My onions are ready. I leave them on the stove to cool for now and return to the ground meat. I add a scant teaspoon of salt to the meat. You can always add more later. The main thing is not to over-salt it. I add a scant teaspoon of coriander, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and a full teaspoon of sweet red paprika. And I'll also add half a teaspoon of a spice mix I made myself. It's a blend of various spices for meat, great for shashlik, and it will really enhance the stuffed cabbage rolls as well. I add a teaspoon of it. Well, now I think that's everything. In a small bowl, I add about a heaping teaspoon of tomato paste. I add just a small amount of chilled cold water to the mix. And I dissolve the tomato paste well in the water. There, everything has dissolved perfectly. I add this mixture directly into the ground meat as well. Now we just need to add the rice, which I have already rinsed. We still haven't added the last ingredient, the onion, which I will add now. There are 2 ways to add the onion to the ground meat mixture. I place the onion here on the cutting board, and I chop the onion like this with a knife. Then I add the finely chopped onion to the savory ground meat as well. Now, all of this needs to be mixed thoroughly. So, the filling is ready and we can start making the cabbage rolls themselves. As I mentioned, I made cabbage rolls yesterday and I have some cabbage leaves left over. There are both large and small leaves here. We'll try to use all of them. As you know, cabbage leaves have this kind of vein. This one is very tough and thick. No matter how much you boil it, it will still get in the way. That's why I usually remove it. I take a sharp knife and start right where it begins. I try not to cut the leaf itself. I carefully trimmed it all the way, right down to the very base. Like this. And as a result, the leaf here is very thin and very soft, so it's very easy to wrap. I base it on the size of the leaf. If the leaf is large, I use more filling. If the leaf is small, then less filling. But this leaf is large. I add a full tablespoon. That's how my cabbage roll turns out. You can cook the cabbage rolls right after preparing them, or you can put them in containers and freeze them. They do perfectly well after freezing without losing their flavor. I take the next leaf, and I also remove this hard, tough vein. Of course, it's very important to choose the right cabbage for cabbage rolls. I happen to get a not so great cabbage. The leaves inside, at the very bottom, are kind of wrinkled. But that's okay, it doesn't affect the taste. Here's a beauty. I want to show you another option. We put the filling in. I only fold one side like this. I roll up the leaf, so I don't touch the other side, this one. I wrap it like this and it's done. Now if, for example, your leaf is short or crooked, I'll just cut it now as if I have a short leaf. There. And now, you can carefully add just a bit more of the filling here. Just like when we make stuffed peppers, you can pack it in tightly, as much as will fit. And this is another way you can make stuffed cabbage rolls. On one side the meat is exposed, but it's been tested. The meat doesn't fall out when you cook the cabbage rolls, and they stay intact. This is another way you can make little cabbage rolls. This is how many cabbage rolls I ended up with, 10 pieces. I'm going to put them in this container and send them to the freezer, where they can be stored perfectly well for quite a long time. When I need them, I take them out and without defrosting, put them straight into the pot, add everything necessary, water, spices, and cook the cabbage rolls. The cabbage rolls turn out very tasty. With that, dear friends, I say goodbye to you, wishing everyone peace, health, good luck and success. As always, Boris, Serge and Tatiana were with you. Goodbye, everyone.